And here we go. We have liftoff. Propulsion continues to be normal.
R68 chamber pressure looks good.
Doubling up. Roger, roll, Atlantis.
Water towers can fly! Yes!
Tango down to nominal.
Fighting downside SC off. Bring in SC off. It's orange!
R45! Oh my god! Oh my god!
Decollage. Put that in the big bag, Eagle.
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
If the methane would be igniting in the flare, correct?
Yikes. You dead? We don't need any more of these.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to a kind of a different test that we will today observe in Starbase. Welcome to what will hopefully be the test of the full Deluge system for the second flight of Starship. My name is Adrian Bile, and I'm your host today as we observe what seems to be more and more clearing or almost empty pad here. The next thing that would happen is hopefully that we see indications of something happening here. But before that happens, let me quickly go down the line here. Who we have here on call today? Because I'm not alone, and I'm starting here, going alphabetically, with Alex. Alex, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm kind of jealous of this pad because it's gonna get wet with cool water, and it's hot here.
Yeah, it's certainly a refresher for that pad. I mean,
Yep.
that's the whole purpose. So, let's see how this goes. Also, we have on comms here Das. Das, how is it going?
I'm around. I'm waiting to see if they're going to splash this thing. It's going to be like a newest water park installed in Brownsville, Texas. So we've been waiting for this for a while, and there is not a lot of people messing around at the pad right now. So hopefully we see some splashy bits in a minute.
Let's hope for that. And also we have on comms here Ryan. Ryan, how is it going?
It's going all right. I'm also very much looking forward to the grand opening of the Boca Chica Beach water park. But I don't think anyone will be splashing around in it, just at this pressure at least.
And also behind the scenes, making sure we're getting these views is Kevin. Kevin is also around, and Jack is in the field giving us views here. So we have a full team here. We want to see this test. So Alex, did we already see some indication that something is happening? I heard some priming and some water going around.
There are currently alarms.
Yeah, listen to the
going on
alarms and
with the pad.
klaxons going off. That is the same sort of clearing alarm we hear out at McGregor sometimes. I'm listening.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, Alex, you were listening too. Did I hear the pad is now clear? It's always Charlie Brown's parents, but it sounded like the pad is clear.
I think, yes, this is the usual sort of klaxon alarm kind of thing that they sound when the pad is clear. So the pad is probably clear.
It's also my ringtone.
Nice.
Yeah. So the thing is, we don't probably need a lot of like tank farm preconditioning for this, hopefully, or like a long chill down. So we actually could see the test very soon. We don't know the exact timeline here, right? Based on the first test. Do we have any indication? Like, are we talking about minutes? About like 20 minutes? Alex, any indication here?
Yeah, I'm still listening to the. Cause
Yeah, we're listening to the announcements.
I don't know if they're saying something different or if it's the same. It's usually hard.
That
I
is
think it's
definitely
pretty much the same, right?
It's definitely in like a warning klaxon right now.
Yeah. Yeah, something about clearing the pad now, like attention personnel, clear the pad now,
Yeah,
something like that.
I think they're saying attention Starbase, and then something.
Yeah, they
about...
usually.
Good.
They usually do. They usually start with attention Starbase, and then that sounds like the pad clear announcement they do before chopsticks lifting. Like this is a very similar pattern of like clicks on and then hey, pad is clear, something is happening, go away.
Yeah, this is definitely just a looping announcement.
Which is a good sign, I guess. I like looping announcement screams to me like this won't go on for like, I don't know, 2 hours.
Yeah.
Before they start doing something.
Yeah.
Serious business.
Yes.
And it's worth mentioning that you can see still there cars and things like that. The difference here relative to other tests is that the pad is clear, but not the road. The road is open right now, I believe, and I think even the beach is also open. It's just the pad, the surroundings of this orbital launch mount that are closed.
And just to point that out, because some people might be wondering, hey, why are they making such a big like fuss and alarm about water? Like this is a lot of water with a lot of pressure that can also not only has force in itself, but also will start to maybe move other objects around as well. They try to secure it, but you never know. So this is a lot of force that they will try to put through this. So yeah, let's get this ready. Also, just to recap, because there's a reason we are live today, right? SpaceX announced they want to do a test today. Ryan, what exactly did they announce today? Like, why are we so eager to see something today?
Well, they did announce it, but again, it's more information than we usually get, but it's still not a lot of information, right? So, officially from SpaceX, they said after initial activation, a full pressure test of the new Starship flame deflector is planned for Friday. That's more information, like I said, that's more information than we usually get, but still, it's just crumbs of what this actually is.
Yeah, so that confirms the first test was a partial test, and this one will be like full pressure, full force, basically a simulation of how a deluge system would work on the big launch. And I'm allowed to call this one now deluge, right? It's no longer like a mystifier.
Let's see how much water comes out it. Like.
Well, I will still call it deluge because it actually deluges a lot of water, but it is not the same kind of function that traditional deluge systems do. Usually those are sound suppression. These are for protecting that little plate, as you will say, on that pad.
Yeah,
So,
either way, it's energy mitigation. Whether you're suppressing sound or you're trying to protect the plate, you're using the energy of the rocket to turn water into steam, right?
You're
so
totally
I'm
right.
really curious
Ooh,
how much
chopsticks
water...
are going up.
Oh, the chopsticks are going up.
They are.
Maybe that's
they are
what that
off
PA
the,
announcement was for then, not the actual
Yeah.
test, just to send the chopsticks up.
You can see some gap on the bottom of the chopsticks. That gap is between the bottom of the chopsticks and what we call the chop stop, which is sort of like a stop that they have at the bottom for the. You coined that. It's not me. You coined that. The chop stop is basically the place where the chopsticks. It's not the chopsticks. It's more like the carriage system is resting on when it is at the bottom.
And real quick, on this view here, we've got this frame specifically because you can see the entire water farm in the lower right-hand corner. Those tanks that are sort of horizontal tanks on the ground just above and to the right of the black wall where it ends. That's where they store the water. And then those two white towers that stick up between the OLM and the water tanks, they're sticking up above the center of that black wall you can see. Those are also integral to the pressure system that drives the water system under the pad. So this camera is is specifically set to capture what happens at the water tanks, what happens at that big sort of, last time it was a vertical blow-off. We don't know if it continues, if that's intentional or was that something with the last test. And then we've got the water system underneath the OLM on the left-hand side. So that's what we're looking at with this camera specifically, as we see the chopsticks pull away from the chop stop.
Yeah, slowly increasing that gap, going up. And this is expected.
really
we saw
also-
this on the oh, sorry.
And it really puts another again in perspective how much force SpaceX expects for this, right? Because they want to move the chopsticks away from this test. They don't want them near to it.
Yeah, we saw this on the partial test as well, so we sort of like expected that this was gonna happen. You know, when we were preparing for this live stream, it was like, oh, what should we expect? What, you know, what are sort of, because this thing happens, and when it happens, right? You don't really, there's not really any sort of indication of when it is actually happening, but there's things that need to happen beforehand, and this is one of them.
Yes, and one other thing we also expect here is you will see some very slow water flow probably from the steel plate before the big flow happens, which most likely is related to them getting air out of the system, getting the lines clear with like the normal water flow before they really put all the pressure through it. So we expect some sort of like light water appearing, like light water drizzle appearing before the main event happens. So that's also what we are watching for here, which might happen. And we don't know. This is proper tank watching again. We don't really have a good educated clue about timelines here, which is kind of funny.
Oh, look at
yeah,
that.
on this camera, you will see it on this camera.
We've got multiple cameras now. You saw Jack's camera actually out there bringing us that other wider shot. And then this, we've zoomed in the dune camera there so we can see the water sort of trickling off the top. And what's going on, what we think is going on is the right way to say this, right? You've got water in the pipes, in the manifolds, in the plate, all this sort of stuff, right? But you don't want to have like air pockets in places and then water in places so that all of a sudden you hit it with a ton of pressure and you get air that's being compressed inside that system in places. You get water hammer and all sorts of damage that can actually occur if you do that. So what we think they need to do is sort of clear out the lines, let all that air sort of bubble out or at least fill the system with water so you have one incompressible fluid filling the entire everything, the pipes, the pumps, the manifolds, the plate, even the holes. You don't want water in any of those places. So what we think happens is they're sort of priming the system, if you will, making sure that it's completely filled with water so that when they hit the far end of it with that pressure, the high pressure gas that they're going to use to force all the water out, they're not compressing air in the lines or anything like that. And instantly, or nearly instantly, the water starts to come out of the Australian showerhead as soon as they hit it with that pressure. Can I call it the Australian showerhead?
Yes, that's. I think it's perfect. I also think this isn't like also remembering other people here of like the how an ejector plate of a rocket engine kinda works. Like you want to make sure that it's really like well mixed, the right pressure at the right time. You don't want bubbles of, in this case, air. It's kind of like a reverse giant rocket injector plate. A bit. Maybe
It is
Yeah.
kind of. It's not really mixing anything, because remember with injector plates you want to mix the oxygen with whatever your propellant is. Here we just have one fluid that's coming out, and hopefully the water is not flammable. But it's the same sort of deal where you have a lot of holes, you have a lot of places that fluid needs to exit, and you want a good flow across the entire thing before it's supposed to do the job it does. You see this, the spin primes, right? Where all of a sudden you get a ton of stuff coming out the rocket engine, and that you'll see before they even light the engines. Stuff comes out and then it lights, and they're making sure that it's completely full and flowing before they actually try to light the thing.
Yeah, it's really cool that we are here in first seat to see what is really a very unique thing. I don't think there's a lot of comparable mechanisms to this shower plate to anywhere in the world. So this is like a really unique test. Of course, it's related to rocket deluge systems, but it's really a different way to do it, a different approach. So I'm really excited for this test. I cannot say it enough. This is probably going to be a very, very cool thing to see and to witness.
Yep. Again, we're
So-
watching for water to dribble off of the plate there, and I don't think we saw it there. Yeah, there we go. Thank you. I'm not seeing any discoloration. Are you?
There was a little bit before, a little bit of water from the right-hand side here that we saw even the concrete get a little bit wet. I think they probably put a little bit of water there,
Okay.
but not a lot. We used to see on the previous test at least a lot more water. They sort of incrementally went up to the full power.
Yeah, not everything is continually flowing yet, it looks like.
I'm getting a super chat here with a question I want to ask you. Musical Wolves here, very regular, with a $5 super chat. Is the water test why SpaceX has been actually sweeping the pad area? So, Ryan, why would they sweep the pad area before this test?
Well, as you can see, it's a little bit rocky. There's concrete everywhere, so you want to make sure you don't have any foreign object debris, because as we saw with the pressure coming out the bottom of booster 7 for the orbital flight test, or not so orbital flight test, that threw concrete everywhere. Now, we're not expecting anything like the concrete getting cracked like Das showed with his little explaining with the pressure washer. However, you know, this is still very powerful, so stuff can get blown around. So I'm sure they wanted to sweep the area, make sure it was clear, so they don't set off the Deluge system, the steel plate, and then have water spraying loads of stuff everywhere and just making the entire launch site a mess.
There we
It
go.
It was weird.
okay.
Like earlier today, we saw them. Or I guess yesterday as well. We saw them sweeping, and then they were pressure washing, and then they were pressure washing the parts that they had swept, and then they were sweeping after they pressure washed. And we're like, what are they doing? Why are they pressure washing it and sweeping it? Because I understand, you know, you have a jet engine on a runway, and you don't want any foreign object debris, the FOD, that can get sucked up into a jet engine. But what could possibly be on the concrete that would hurt the water system if it's laying on the surface of the concrete 20 yards away? I don't really understand why that was so important to clear it up. Maybe if something comes out of the water system, they want to know that it came from the inside of the water system and it wasn't just sitting on the pad. Yeah. I was scratching my head trying to figure out why all the pressure... They were trying to recreate my experiment, I guess, with their pressure washer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that. I was like, hey, call Das. There's competition.
I also wonder if they maybe have not sealed everything up again after the repairs on the OLM, and maybe they don't want any rock hitting very important infrastructure here. So they did extra checks so they don't damage any other infrastructure that is not directly related to the Deluge system.
Yep.
I guess they don't want to accidentally propel a rock or something over into the tank farm by accident with the plate. So it's probably better to be safe than sorry and just make sure the place is spotlessly clean.
Yes. I mean, that tank farm took tank farm took some hits already. I have full imagine you just repaired that and then just from the first test again a rock flies into it and just leaks again, and you're like, oh, why did I repair it? Oh, another question here, which is related to what will after maybe happen this, and that's a question by Sepsep. After this test, would a static fire with the Deluge system be next? Alex, would a static fire be next?
Oh boy, don't we want that to happen? I really want that to happen. Yeah, maybe. I don't know if they're gonna be doing any other kind of test in between. Maybe a spin prime, do you think? Or something like that? But definitely we shall see maybe a static fire next, at the very least. With the water on.
Yeah.
I'm totally sure that it's gonna be with the water on.
Even a spin prime, they could still test the system during a spin prime at least to give it another go. Of course, it wouldn't deluge anything, but at least they could give it another go during the spin prime. I think we have seen pad water system tests in spin primes before, if I don't mix it up completely. So it wouldn't block it. But of course, they want to probably test this in action, so they know if they will create another rock tornado again. Which we don't want. We don't want another rock tornado. Elmat here asking, where does the water go? Recycled or discarded? With a $9.99 super chat, by the way. Thank you so much for that. Do we know if there's any way to where this water goes, or will it just be disposed into the area?
There's some kind of retention pond thing that they have to collect the water. It is only on one side, though. It's not entirely around the OLM. It's just on the sort of left-hand side here on this camera view. But apart from that, I don't think they really have any other way to contain where the water goes. There's probably a little bit of a slope in that direction. That's why it is in that direction, but I'm not sure.
They don't really have a moat to scoop all the water up in once it's been ejected from the plate, so I do believe that the vast majority of it does just get evaporated.
Yeah, that is also true. You know, in any case, it is also true that the water is not going to come on just as the engines ignite. It'll probably come up with a few seconds, you know, of lag time there, so that they have time to ensure that it works before the engines light. So I can imagine that in that few seconds that it is running, there's some water that needs to go somewhere else, and that's probably why they have that pond there.
Yeah,
That's my total guess.
Is a balance between you only have so much water in storage, right? Like you can only put out so much water, and you only have so much pressure to drive the water. Even if you have enough water stored for 3 splashes, I don't know. I want to see what this looks like so I can come up with a better term for it. But even if you have 3 water tanks full, I'm just making this number up, if you only have enough pressure at one time to run it, and then it takes 30 minutes to build up pressure again so that you can try again, you still have to be cognizant of exactly how you use that pressure and water, right? So you want it to start so the flow gets going and you get a lot of water mass in the area to start being ready to absorb the energy from that rocket, but you don't want it to run out before the rocket gets far enough away. So really interesting to see how that goes.
Yeah, I wonder if we will see like a full duration test of like 10, 50, like how long do you need it? We know the lead up time to launch was like 6-7 seconds, right? Of hold before they really had going, and then of course there's a time where the rocket is still firing at it while it's still going up. So you probably need like 10-15 seconds of this just spool at least.
For this launch, Elon says they want to have it like within 3 seconds, just like Falcon 9. Because I believe the first launch they sort of stayed in the ground for a little bit to let the engines, you know, ramp up and be more. Because the problem with the first launch is that every single different engine was very, very wildly different in performance, and so they wanted to have them all sort of like equal, while also not igniting 3 of them. But it's okay, and yeah, it's probably why they might not run it for that long next time. Is that a drone on the right, or is it
Yeah. I think that's a drone.
It is now there next to the OLM.
Yeah, there you go. It looked a little bit too robotic to be a bird.
Yeah, we heard an announcement earlier before that they would start drone operations, which was kind of like the first announcement we got today. So this is probably part of that. Not only filming, but they also use drones for like side checking. If there's like not only the object checking, but also if it's cleared. It gives you another remote way to check into the site. So that's probably also related to this. An interesting question here by Musical Wolves in a $2 super chat. Is this a splash up or a splash down?
Oh.
I mean... Oh, is that venting from a nitrogen tank?
They have moved the quick disconnect on the arm.
Oh yeah.
Extended.
Like it
Are they similar
to the side? How did it move?
No, it is extended. It is as if there was a Starship on top.
Interesting.
So they're using this to test other things as well, because there's no way that the ship QD is needed for this test, right? There's no connection to it. So they probably just thought like, hey, we have this cleared anyway, so why not test other things we want to test while the pad is clear? So, interesting. Nice thing to happen. I also say it's a splash up, just to answer that question.
Splash up. Adrian, the problem with that is that splash up sounds goofy.
Okay.
It should be awesome. It's like a rocket system to keep the pad from being destroyed. And you can't be like, oh yeah, we do it with a bit of a splash up.
I think it's more like what I have is like some science fiction shields, you know, like these particle shields. Okay. This is how I imagine it. Maybe that's me.
Okay. All right.
Can I suggest a name?
Go ahead.
Maybe, Jack. What's the name?
Geyserator. I don't know.
Geyserator. Okay.
Hey, that's Jack. Wow. Yeah, we'll see. We'll move the naming discussion for later once we have seen the full system,
Yeah.
so we can properly evaluate. We've not seen any indication they started the flow yet. Although the pad looks clear. Like, I've not seen any other person running around.
Yeah.
So
One
that's
thing-
at least good.
Yeah.
One thing probably worth to remind here, because we have a lot more people now that we talk about this. There's an alarm going on right now at the pad. That is the pad clear alarm. The sort of PA announcement is saying, get out of the pad and everything, like clear the pad, because they're gonna do the test. And so, yeah, we've listened to that already before and sort of tried to make out what it is all about.
There's suggestions coming in, and some of them I won't read. Let me thank some people here, because there's members here that join our membership program, which gives you behind-the-scenes pictures, amazing perks, pictures, and Discord access, which is very, very cool. So I want to thank some people here. Jim Cavett gifting a Red Team membership, thank you for that. Christopher Martin becoming a Red Team member, that gives you access to the pictures on the channel, so thank you for that. We also have Steve as a Pat Red member, thank you so much, and Joanne with becoming a Capcom member. So make sure to connect your Discord with your YouTube account so you can join the NSF Discord, which is, again, I think a really amazing place. I love it a lot. So, yeah. Also, Moldy coming here with a $10 super chat saying, Jack has my support for Geyserator.
The Geyserator?
Yeah. It's support is coming in here for different kind. Just raising money for some towels after the test. There's some good suggestions here coming in. Let me ask some questions here. Let me see. David Edwards asking, is that Booster 9 on the OLM for this test? Yes. That's Booster 9. They put a booster on it. I wonder, that's an interesting thing we can discuss. Did they put the Raptor platform, like the dance floor, up to protect the Raptors for this test?
I think that's a possibility. It's like a big splash preventer, I guess, a splash shield.
Well,
Yeah,
it was already
maybe just
up
a
for
big-
the pressure, for the partial one.
Maybe they just put a big tarp there. I don't know.
I mean, they put a bunch of tarp stuff on lots of stuff. Like the doghouse just got lifted over yesterday, and they put a tarp over that, and there's a tarp on where the lines go in. There's lots of tarpage going on.
Yeah.
Boca Chica, sponsored by TARP.
Yeah, but it's worth remembering that, yeah, this platform was already up as well when they did the partial pressure test without the booster. So it might just be that it's up because it's up. It could probably be removed.
Yeah, maybe. Like, I could see a reality where they want to protect some hardware here. I mean, I don't know if Raptor engines are sensible to water. I mean, it could be. But so, in a launch scenario, they would provide thrust, so they would fire against the water, so they wouldn't come in contact with it. So, yeah. It's probably unclear.
But if the water is going to run seconds before the ignition, then in theory they shouldn't be pointing at the Raptors. And they actually, from the partial pressure test, they didn't seem to be pointing at them. They were going sideways, like at an angle.
Yeah, that's true.
I'd remember that they're testing this system full up for the first time. Like, that's the whole plan here. So it makes sense to take some extra precautions that might not be needed when they're actually going for launch. Like, right now they're just seeing, and if there's an errant drilled hole or something that would spray right into the injector plate of a Raptor or something like that, you want that to hit the dance floor, the bottom of the dance floor, instead of it hitting the Raptor itself, right? So maybe it's just an overabundance of caution. I was going to say not something we normally see from SpaceX, but maybe it's just an overabundance of caution here to put a little bit of extra protection in front of the engines, I guess, between the water plate and the engines until they do the full-on pressure test and they see what it's like. I mean, what if part of the steel plate fails and goes flying upwards under the pressure of the water? And that's not a nominal thing, but they haven't tested it at full pressure yet.
Yeah, or if there's like other worst case, there could be a rock in the pipe somewhere, like a small rock. You suddenly accelerate a small rock with full pressure of the system, and that goes flying anywhere.
Yeah, so I really do think there's a pretty good argument to, you know, what's the cost to you to put the dance floor in place and then raise it up so that it sort of acts as a little bit of a shield to help block anything from hitting the engines that are on Booster 9. I mean, theoretically, those are the flight engines that are there, right?
Yeah, I mean, in theory, we have seen some indications there might be some Raptor replacement, I think, Alex, right?
Yeah, I'm not fully sure if they actually went through it at the end, because I didn't stay around for that. But I saw them lifting these adapters that they use to remove engines.
Listen. That's in Spanish.
Oh.
Is that the drone?
No, it's both. It's both in English and Spanish.
Yeah. That sounded like it was the drone telling somebody to evacuate the area immediately, somewhere around. Yeah, hazardous testing area. Please evacuate the area immediately.
And we have seen that before, like that they use the drone to just fly somewhere and talk to people. So we'll see. A lot of people here, by the way, are starting to ask about the tarps. Yeah, still talking.
Yeah, the whole drone announcement there said, "You're in a secured hazardous testing area. Please evacuate the area immediately." I went back and listened to it. So interesting.
Yeah, just to point out. Oh, there we go. Is that one of the nitrogen tanks?
I can hear some venting.
Oh yeah.
Perhaps
I hear something spooling up.
Yeah, perhaps they're increasing the pressure, mayhaps.
Yeah. Yeah, there's for sure something like you hear some movement somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's more.
I can also hear the drone.
This is it's like proper tank watching. I love it. You heard it, yeah. You probably should hear something before the water comes, because they need to build up the pressure in the tanks.
It's funny because that ship quick disconnect has retracted, but I think it is now deploying again. They're playing with it.
I wonder.
See it?
No.
Look at that.
I wonder. At some point, I wondered if they would move the chopsticks all the way to launch configuration as well, and do like a full 15 seconds to T0 stage 0 simulation, like with the whole QDs retracting and everything. I'll see if that maybe happens. We don't see any water yet, right? I don't see it so far. No, I don't think so. I want to thank some more, like, people are coming here with the memberships, and I want to use the situation where we can still thank them, because there might be action picking up very, very soon. So, Jedi Master with the Red Team membership, nice name. Then we have Gerard with a Pet Rat membership, thank you so much, and we have Anthony Truman with a Launch Director membership. That's one of the highest tiers we have, so thank you so much. That's so generous of you. And we also have, I'm not even trying that, I will just call you OI9 as a Red Team membership. Thank you so much all for joining the membership program. It really helps us out, and I know we say that a lot, but it's really, really true. So thank you so much. And yeah, I have never heard so many announcements going on here at this place. It's like alarms, announcements, drones talking. This is new.
It's PA Fest.
Oh my god, it's not a wet dress rehearsal. I just saw that. It's not a wet dress rehearsal.
It's got water.
It's getting wet.
Rehearsal.
Yeah.
Nope. So
It's
another
a wet blade rehearsal.
what is the tarp that's covering the OLM leg? What is below that tarp? Do we know?
That's
The
covering
doghouse?
the doghouse. Yeah, that doghouse is covering the cryopipes to the OLM. So I'm sure that there's probably not sealed completely there, and so probably covering it so that it doesn't get too wet.
Yeah, you wouldn't want like a bunch of water in your methane lines, and then when you try to fill it with methane, you have water, which cryogenic methane could actually freeze into ice, which expands and then can cause all sorts of problems in places. So,
Yeah.
Ice, baby.
Wow. Ellie,
moving right along.
Ellie, I have to thank a person here. Ellie Demicree with a 50 Red Team memberships gifted here. And another 50 Red Team memberships. Like, that's 100. Wow. That's so much. And you do that all the time. I want to point out, that's not the first time. That's so generous.
They did before as well on SPL.
Yeah,
It's
that's
crazy.
like not even the first time today. Wow. Thank you so much. Really. I hope everybody says thank you to you in the chat, because that you just gave a lot of people cool access. So I hope they use that. Let's hit some more questions here, because we have some more. There's more tarp question. Do we want to hit more tarp question? The tarps don't look very secured. Any guesses if they would stay on after the test?
We're gonna see. I mean, they are in the lee of the leg, right? So they're behind the leg, but that one black tarp looks like it's sort of open, right, along the side of the leg, and it may act as like a big catch for the water. If water gets underneath that tarp, the tarp's going to billow out and it'll open up the hole larger and it'll let even more water get into there. So I really don't know. Did they put some sort of firm, like a pipe or a piece of metal or something to hold the tarp down, or am I looking at that wrong, or what is it?
I think it is.
I think it's a line.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
look
they
at that.
have,
Like, it looks like
one-
there's a cable around the leg, and they just fix the tarp with the cable around the leg. That might not work. We'll see. It's like when we had these ventilation pipes on other tests. It's like this exciting item you watch and you see if it survives the test. We'll see.
You know, it's so hot in here, because I really wish we had this kind of water test. Because
In Spain,
man, yeah.
it rained here for like 3 days now in a row, so I'm fine with deluge testing. We can stop the deluge testing in Germany now. So let's see. Another question here by Gina G. Will they do a full deluge when they go to a full WDR? Let's go around the horn. Ryan, do you think they will also test all of this in WDR? Will they even go that far?
It's interesting because it's a new system which they probably want experience with, but it's also, you know, the point of this is for when the Raptors are coming.
New noises.
Yep.
Sorry.
I hear ya.
That sounds promising.
That was some sort of... Was that like a spooling up noise or a horn? What do you think that was, Alex?
That sounds like it's pulling up.
Yeah, it was like...
Yeah.
It decreased in frequency as it went on a little longer. I'm so sorry for jumping in there,
No.
Ryan.
I wonder if we'll see some little water coming out there.
It sounds almost like something opening, like a I don't know, like a vent opening, or like something in a tank opening, because you could hear how the pressure changed the tone, which is always an indication that some pressure is probably changing in some sort of area.
Yeah.
So, and that's interesting. We'll see what's happening here. So this is one of these situations where we will try to still answer questions. By the way, if you have questions, tag at NASASpaceflight in chat, and we'll try to answer them. And but we'll also maybe interrupt at any moment in time, because we wanted to comment on the action. So yeah, let's quickly finish this. Do we think on the WDR they will test the deluge system as well? Ryan, you were not finished.
I think potentially because, one, it's a new system. It's not needed as there's no fire from the Raptors, right? So it's not needed, but it is also a new system. So potentially because they might want more experience with the deluge pack.
There we go. Alex, any additional thoughts on that, or?
Can you repeat that, please?
Will they
Just wouldn't
test
have
the
this.
deluge system on the WDR as well?
Oh, right, that question. They might, because we saw the fire system being tested on the full stack wet dress rehearsal for the first flight. So if they do one, maybe they test it again. That's my thinking,
And
at least.
I also have another generous super chat or tip in disguise coming from tips.nasaspaceflight.com. I want to say Stabby Unicorn with the $100 tip saying more puns, please. First off, thank you a lot. Sadly, Sawyer is not here, so that's a problem. We are definitely missing the pun master here, but he will be on a later stream if I recall correctly. So
big noise is coming. Look! All right, y'all. It looks like
That was exciting.
the new water park expansion at Starbase is open for business.
look at that, Deluge tank farm.
Wow.
That came out of nowhere. Wow. Okay, that was exciting. I love that. Can we get a second round? Can we go to the water park again?
SpaceX, do it again.
Again.
Wow.
At least we know the OLM is still intact, so that's one sign of success.
Yeah. That was
It is.
I need replays. Jesus. I mean, first impressions. Das go.
That was a significant amount of water. One thing that people should understand is you can hear the water rushing, and that's not the loud sound. The loud sound that you hear, we think, is the blow-off back at the water tank farm. So it's not like there's a huge delay or anything, but that was cool. Literally.
Yeah, literally, it's probably cool water. They don't heat it up. My impression is that looked long. Also, that was not only that was a significant duration of a test. So
Yeah,
that
we're
was
currently looking at
really
that
impressive.
precisely.
Yeah, that came out of nowhere. It just was in the middle of a sentence. Suddenly the warning came. That was
It looked
impressive.
to be around 50 seconds until it fully died off.
I want to throw it to somebody. I hope we have on comms. Jack, can you give us any first impressions?
Yeah, that was awesome. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear
Yes.
Yeah, that was awesome. Louder than the last one. It seems like a significant amount of water is in the piping, because the water starts flowing, as I'm sure you guys heard, and there's just the sound of water, and then as the water continues to flow out of the pipes, then the roar, and it's not just sound delay, because I'm relatively close, obviously within safe limits and all that. Bunch of people around me right now, but yeah, it's interesting that it kind of betrays how it works a little bit. Is that they have water in the pipes are full, and they surge that nitrogen or whatever it is through, and yeah, that was awesome. Sorry, I'm not more energetic. I'm kind of taking in the sun out here, but that was awesome. It really gives me confidence that hopefully for Flight 2 and beyond, the problems of the erosion of the pad will be solved.
Yeah.
We have a robot Jack there.
Yeah, Jack, I think everybody's trying to upload their photos and stuff of that test because you're getting a little bit robot-y there, but they're still doing pad announcements. I mean, there's probably some safing of the system because there's a ridiculous amount of energy required to move that much water that quickly. Just the mass of the water, right? So there's probably an entire safing. I don't know that we have any expectation that there'll be another test like that. We are working on getting replays from all the different angles we didn't show you during the test, because we had basically, what do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We had 10 cameras pointed that way. So we're working on getting a lot of replays here from various angles, y'all.
Can you hear me?
And shout out on.
Yeah, Jack, we heard that.
I was recording 4K at 120 frames a second. I could run to my car and give you a quick look if you want, but I might miss something if something else happens. I don't know. Your call.
I don't think you're going to have a lot
I hear venting.
Yeah, something venting, it sounded like.
Yeah, I'm looking at the cameras if I see it.
It's important to note that the PA announcements are still ongoing. So
that's what I was saying. Maybe there's still some safing to be done. There may be high pressures in lines or just unknowns or something. Who knows? They may have lost a sensor or two. And so just keeping the pad clear until it gets a chance to come down to like a natural state. You don't gain anything at all by running out there right now and looking down a hole that just shot water at high pressure out of it, you know?
Yeah, it's also, we can now confirm the top was holding. Just to quickly bring that up. I looked at the tank farm, like the water tank farm a lot, because that of course it's a tank farm, so it always attracts my eyes. And that looked like it put some serious work in there. It was like venting from everywhere. That was cool to see. I'm also looking forward to see a replay of that, because you can see how much energy and how much like action a tank farm actually needs to do to provide this kind of deluge system. Because yes, the action happens at the pad, but the work is done in the tank farm. So that was super cool to see, and I'm looking forward. I'm looking forward to see all the angles of this, and of course the high FPS shots. Let me. I mean, also yeah, the pad is wet.
Yeah.
Thank you, Adrian.
It was
Yeah,
about
the pad
50
is wet.
seconds.
Yeah. Can they? I just saw the question: is the pad wet? And I'm like, yes, it's wet.
Yes.
Do we think they can do 2 tests in a row? Like, do we think they have enough water for that? Is that do we have any knowledge about that, Alex?
I'm not sure. They have 4 little water tanks, another 2 big ones. There's a third one coming in, sort of in the way. We'll see when it arrives. But I'm not fully sure. It was a lot of water though. It was 50 seconds since the first little build-up of water until it actually went all the way to just not shooting water at all. So that was a long time.
Yeah.
Did you, Alex? Did you time it? Like you timed it and it was 50, like 50 seconds.
I mean, not 50 exactly 50, but around 50.
Yeah, sure.
Plus minus 2 seconds maybe.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I
can get you the numbers here, because I'm looking at SPL, Starbase Live, and I see it comes up at about 1:09:56 p.m. and then like the last few trickles of water I see are about it might actually be more than a minute.
Yeah, it looked to me like the at the end it was more like pressure that was still left in the tanks that was just like fading out. They didn't stop it with just stopping the deluge. They just let the pressure roll out. So they just release everything. So that's how it looked to me. Maybe that's but
I think maybe about 20-25 seconds of full or nearly full pressure, and then from there it was just kind of trickling down. So I imagine that would be like a ramp up to launch, and then as it launches, it then starts to pull back because the vehicle's no longer there firing its engines.
Yeah, that's probably what we hear with a high pressure venting, that the whole thing reaches full power, full pressure, and then as they try to ramp down, they free that pressure from somewhere else in the system, and that's the big vent that we hear going on. That's my guess, at least, of what happens there, and it makes sense, kinda, I guess.
Nice.
So let's like the next thing that probably would signal us, hey, everything is pulling down, would be the chopsticks going down, I would imagine. That's at least what I would watch for now.
Yep. Makes sense.
So, well, we'll see what happens here. All pad people, of course, returning to the pad, but as long as the click stun is on, I don't think everybody will return to this pad.
Yeah, you've got plenty of time. Like, there's no reason to run over there and try to look down a deluge hole right now. Like, let it get down to normal pressures. Let it come back down to ambient. It's not going anywhere. Like, whatever happened during that test is not going to change after the test measurably, especially if it's like a big dramatic force, like something bent or something moved while the pressure was high. It's very unlikely that it's going to change right now. So there's just no reason for people to run over there. Just give it time to get back down to ambient, nice and safe like they usually do.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me hit some question here. Here's one question by Techron attached to a $5 super chat. I'm sure you already said this, but are they doing a B9 static fire and a deluge test? Sorry, I just got here.
No.
I mean, not today.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, we're not expecting a static fire today. We're expecting a dynamic water.
We saw.
I don't know.
Dynamic water test.
Yeah, it's not really static water, even though the launch pad or rocket doesn't move, because the water definitely moves.
Yeah, I think dynamic water test is it's quite dynamic.
Nice.
I'm going with that. So well, we'll see. Let me. Some other question here. Will the water? Go ahead, Ryan.
I was just going to quickly direct everyone's attention to the concrete. You can kind of see it's pretty level with the camera, so it's difficult to see, but the concrete at the bottom of the pad, you can see there's wet patches, but there's also now dry patches.
Oh, yeah.
So the South Texas weather is very quickly evaporating all of that up, answering the question from right back at the start of the stream. You know, is this recovered or whatever? You can see the puddles are now really quickly drying up.
Yeah, especially on the concrete there. I grew up in South Texas playing outside in the driveway with, water hoses and stuff. And before it gets wet, the concrete is already really hot. It's almost too hot to walk on barefoot, right? And so it's got a bunch of heat energy in the concrete itself. It's really hot. And then you spray water on it, so you have the sun coming down from the top evaporating it. The concrete's already hot, heating up the water. Within like a few seconds, you spray a garden hose on the water down there, and then you step in the water and you're like, wow, why is that water hot? It was just in the hose. Maybe that's part of the reason it was hot, but it warms it up really quickly. It's going to evaporate really quickly, and it's also right next to the Gulf of Mexico. The sun beating down on the Gulf of Mexico is continually evaporating way more water than SpaceX could ever hope to put in a water tank out here. So the amount of water that's going into the atmosphere, even from this test, from human engineering standards, wow, how cool, look at all the water we just moved into the Gulf of Mexico is a couple hundred yards away, like, yeah, okay, whatever. The moon,
Cute.
The moon is like,
Cute.
look at how much water I move. And the sun is like, look at how much water I move. In these little teeny tiny accomplishments that humans are able to do by spraying some water out of a couple steel holes, nothing to do to even compare with the beach just on the other side of the camera.
Yeah, it's it makes you feel like it's one of these pictures where people are like hopping around a fire and like what you see in movies around, like, hey, we made fire, and now the nature is like, yeah, cute. So
Sounds like
we'll
we have
see
some
how
replays coming up here. Are we ready for replays, maybe?
Let's hit some replays here. Let's go.
Just stand by 1 second. We want to keep showing, I think, it in case something else happens. We don't think anything else is going to happen. But let's look at the replays here as we set up the little side-by-side. Unless what I'm seeing now is a replay. I'm just going to keep talking until something happens. There we go. Clearly labeled.
That's the replay.
Yeah, that's the replay.
So, what's the first thing that happens?
Water goes up.
Water,
Yeah, thank you.
Right everywhere.
There. That's so much.
It looks like it gets higher. Like it sort of starts and then it
So maybe they did like a certain pressure and then they went full pressure. Like hey, is this fine? And let's push it more.
Yeah,
and this is the moment where I think it's over.
Yeah.
Hold on, I think this is still being played with a whole full sound, I guess.
Oh.
Yeah,
Nobody
people
can
are
hear
like,
anything.
rip my ears. Yeah.
Whoops.
Probably the producer needs to a little bit the volume on that replay. If please, you can do that. Yeah.
I hope you also enjoyed our analysis.
Is
Yeah,
Kevin
there you
listening
go.
to us? Yeah, Kevin might be. Oh, great. I don't know. I don't know if they're still hearing the super loud sounds or not.
No,
Chat.
it's already over.
So, okay, good.
Okay, we talked a lot while you were. So, Daz,
Someone saying,
I think
do
you
it louder.
Okay.
Daz, I think you saw that the water got higher, right?
Can we replay it again? Oh, here we go. Let's watch it from some different angles. Then I want to go back to that. Maybe we'll see it from this one. Hopefully, no sound on this one. Replay, maybe.
We'll see. We
Wait
don't
for our
know yet.
producer, Kevin. Okay, there's some water,
I see it.
and then it gets higher
Yeah.
and higher and higher. Now above the level, like the top level of the orbital launch, the table itself, right? The mount itself.
Yeah, and now it's over. Now the test just loses pressure.
And it just loses pressure as it's sort of like still going pretty
Yeah.
good there.
But yeah,
Look at that.
that's impressive. I didn't expect it to be this much force. And you can see
Yeah.
the tank farm over there on the left working.
Look at it just spilling out the sides everywhere.
Yeah.
I can't say this enough, y'all. Like there is a lot of water coming out of there, but that water is going to evaporate ridiculously quickly. There
Probably
may
already
be-
done.
Well, maybe there are concerns. Like to be 100% fair, there are concerns when you have a process that's changing the salinity of the surrounding area, right? And this happens with like mangrove swamps and estuaries and things like that. And you hear about, oh, this chemical factory upstream is changing, like releasing all this water and changing the salinity, and it's killing things off. But there's nothing right around the pad here. There's no seasonal, there's no full-time water where there's like standing ponds or anything anywhere near the launch pad, right? So releasing the water into this isn't really changing. Wow.
Look at that.
You can see the tank farm going wild before it happens.
Look at that.
Yeah, those are the two pipes that deliver the water.
No kidding.
Wow. You can
Sorry,
see
yeah.
almost a fountain on the left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to pull that one directly off the camera because that one is a little hiccupy, but I can pull that off the SD card. Again, these are the real time, the fast turnarounds. It all is constantly going out to our video servers, and then we pull it off the video server. A lot of the times it's great, but if there's a big event, we can pull down stuff locally off the SD cards and get like the source quality footage. So we'll have to do that off this camera here. Anyways, while we look for the next replay to come up, I don't want to minimize it, but I do want to look at this, and it's not a mangrove swamp right next to it or anything like that. That water's going to evaporate out. It's not flowing directly into like a surface body of water right there on the side of the pad where there's all sorts of cute little fishies or anything like that. Like that just doesn't exist there in the area. I've walked all around there while we're setting up things and filming and all that sort of stuff. And so I'm very curious. Certainly it's something we need to think about, but that water's going to evaporate fast.
Yeah, and also SpaceX, you know, they know where they are located, and they made already a pond there to sort of collect some of that water. At least a big chunk of that water is going to that pond. Whether it's actually going to be reclaimed or not, we don't fully know, but we'll see.
Here it is from this angle again. Watch and see if we're getting another replay. There you go.
Is this the one with the audio?
I don't know if they can hear us or not.
Oh no.
Chad, can you hear us?
Commentate.
Yeah.
Commentator's
no audio.
guessing if
It
we
has
are
no audio.
audible right now.
They can hear us now, yeah. You can definitely see that it starts off and the flow gets going and then it increases. It gets taller and taller up above the level of the top of the OLM. And then, like you see now, it's decreasing once again.
Yeah, I wonder if there's like some kind of 50% limit or around there, and then once like all the sensors or the majority of the sensors are happy with it, they're like, okay, immediately let's thrash it full thrust, push all of that water up out of there, and just kind of like a fail safe at around 50%. So if something is wrong, they can quickly pull it back down.
Yeah, I bet you it's also better to like slowly increase the pressure. I mean, it happens really quickly, but it's still looking like it's an increase that happens on a curve instead of going from zero pressure to full pressure and like bam, right? All of a sudden, it does look like, all right, let's get some things flowing with the initial power, and then it's flowing, so we're going to turn the power up, and then we're going to turn it back down again. I wonder if that's what we're observing, if there's some other option or some other root cause for why we see it sort of increase and then go down again.
There's some weird noises going on.
Oh,
like
yeah.
groaning noises. Is that... Oh, the chopsticks are going down. That's
moving?
why. Yeah, that's why.
Yeah, somebody
needs
to put oil on them. That's they're doing funky sounds.
Those chopsticks make a lot of noise now, y'all. Like after the first orbital launch, after the first integrated test flight, when the chopsticks move, they sound like, you know, they're 90 years old and their bones are creaking.
I mean, it's not the worst sound they make. I think the worst sound is the lines like hitting each other, like the steel cables. That sound is just very worrying.
Listen to the creaking. Is that the chopsticks now?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's like they're kind of like settling down, like after a long day in their chair. They're just done with the day.
It's like the integrated test flight made them old before their time. Like
yeah, they lost 5 years in just one flight.
Yeah, it sounded like they lost 50 years in one flight. But anyways, they're almost down to the chop stops again. You can see a little triangle piece at the bottom underneath the carriage. That light is getting thinner and thinner, and they're about to stop moving, it looks like. Stop their creaking and groaning noises. We gotta keep speed. We gotta say thanks to some people. Folks, this is the first time we've seen this, and we're so interested in talking about it and figuring out what happened in just like the spectacle of the water feature that they've installed. Can we speed run some of those, Adrian?
Yes, I have some here. We have Vornada with a $10 super chat. Would it be a good idea to lay a large tarp on a steel plate during off days? I mean, I would think it's a good idea to cover it up. But I'm not an engineer to point it out.
Tarps aren't particularly resilient, and part of the reason that they want the flat plate is because then they can still work underneath the booster, right? Yeah. And so that's why they're not going with a concrete angle or something like you see in other more traditional blast deflectors or flame deflectors, flame trenches, right? So you do want to have equipment moving around on the plate. Driving back and forth on a tarp probably isn't the best idea. I wonder if they're going to have to mitigate that somehow. Like, do you want FOD falling down into all the holes? Are they going to cover or plug the holes somehow? Or are you just going to let the vehicles drive above them and then do the little, like, purge test? I could definitely see situations where a piece of rubber off of a tire or something, you know, a bolt even, falls down a hole and then goes around a corner, so even the purge doesn't really move it if you're just gently flowing the water out. And then all of a sudden, the pressure hits and it really gets that volume of water moving, and then all of a sudden you have a bolt being shot out of a hole at high speed directly up at a Raptor or something like that. I think the holes are actually angled so they don't do that, but you never know. It's like pew ding, and it ricochets off the leg or something and then goes right into an injector, and then an entire Raptor fails. I bet you that's something they're going to have to think about, like how they actually protect those holes from FOD that can subsequently get ejected at high velocity when you hit it with the water pressure. Or the water flow, really.
I want to point out that we had Raptors before that were taken out by FOD flying up. We had that, I think, SN8, right? Alex? I think it was SN8, right? That had the FOD situation with the loss of pneumatic control.
Yeah, it was that one.
There we go, Jack.
Yes, as well.
Yeah. There we go. I'm happy. I remember correctly. Yes. So we had once that they almost lost the ship because FOD flew up and hit important hardware. So it can happen. Mark C here becoming a Red Team member. Thank you so much for that. And Stabby Unicorn with a $50 tip using tips.nasaspaceflight.com saying, "Wow, that water though." Thank you so much for that tip. And yeah, wow, that water though. I think that's a very accurate statement. Yaroslav with a $9 super chat saying, "Just come from a shower to see a shower. Thanks."
Good timing.
I hope this one was much more powerful than the one you just had.
Yeah, if you have this in your bathroom, I'm sorry. It's rather unhealthy. I think the shower is probably unhealthy to take. So don't do that. Beatmaster becoming a red team member. Thank you so much. Ground umbilical carrier plate becoming a red team member. Sorry, gifting a red team member. Ground umbilical carrier plate. That's the best name.
Is that that's the worst name, Adrian? That's the worst name. The ground umbilical carrier plate was like the cursed thing that scrubs shuttle launches.
Oh, I didn't know. I don't know a shuttle.
Yeah, that's a thing. We were talking about it last night during the stream. Was it last night? We were on a stream with Sawyer and we were talking about the ground umbilical carrier plate. We actually have a video coming out shortly where we mention the ground umbilical carrier plate. There's lightning involved. So
what a long word, by the way. That's like these long space words that are like so easy to and opening for everybody. Nick Solf here with a $10 super chat. I assume that salt water would be too corrosive. Do we think this was freshwater or seawater?
Yeah. The only thing like you don't want in your system that's worse than salt water is really hot salt water, right? Because if you were firing the Raptor engines down at salt water and you're putting all that heat energy into the salt water, it helps it corrode things even faster. So salt water not great. Heated salt water, not great-er. Probably even worse, I guess you could say. So I don't think that they would use salt water in this system, especially if they want it to be rapidly reusable.
Yeah, and also we saw freshwater deliveries. So we saw tankers coming, delivering water.
Yeah.
So
well, we saw where they were getting the water from as well. They were at a fire hydrant in Brownsville, and they had a water metering device. This is a normal thing that happens, where you can get a contract or something with the city, a permit from the city, and you have to manage, you have to calculate how much water you actually take out, and there's a special flow meter that goes in line, and then you fill up the truck and you truck it over, yada, yada, yada. So that is fresh water coming from those hydrants. We've seen, I don't know if trucks don't come from anywhere else, but we did spot a couple of the trucks filling up with a flow device from like a flow metering device from a fire hydrant.
There we go. So that's it's still funny that somebody has to, like, somewhere somebody has to build this water test, and they have to, like, 5,000 liters of water per second, whatever. I'm making up numbers. And just writing a bill for that. I think that's funny. That's me, but I think that's funny. Fernando with a 10 Red Team membership gifted. Thank you so much. And Amy with a $10 super chat. Awesome. Keep up the good work, guys. We will. And Dean Harbold with a $10 super chat and saying, now that's a Deluge system. Let's go. Great work, guys. Are we now allowed to call this Deluge?
I mean, it was pretty Deluge-y. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was pretty
good. It's a lot of water.
It doesn't look like what we see on SLS. I still think that there's a higher volume of water flowing on SLS just by looking at it, right? But it is a significant amount of water. That is not a FireX system. That is not a mister, like a theme park mister. I think we could call that a Deluge system.
And I will also argue that yes, it's not like SLS, but it's at least like Falcon 9 maybe, Falcon 9-ish kind of. I don't know. Yeah.
It's significant.
Yeah, it's significant. It's a lot of water. It's deluged water.
Yay! No longer just mist.
Yeah. The concrete's already dry.
Thanks, Texas.
It's not dark anymore. Like, the concrete is already mostly dry, and it'll stick around in the soil a little bit longer. It evaporates more slowly from the soil, but the concrete is almost dry already.
The good thing is it will not form puddles in this weather, so there's no mosquitoes. So that's good.
Yeah.
Right? Right?
I think it depends on how much rain they've gotten lately, right? Because out there, I can tell you because we've installed things in the ground at Starbase, and if you dig a hole, sometimes you find water. And if you've got a lot of rain lately, that water may be very close to the surface, and if there hasn't been a lot of rain lately, you may not see the water at all. It may be completely dry. So how quickly the water released from the deluge test is going to absorb into the ground, and how much capacity, how much carrying capacity that soil has to absorb that water really does depend on how much rain has occurred lately. You're going to see it sticking around for longer if there was, a couple days of rain, storms coming through. The ground is already soaked and saturated, but it has not rained at Starbase in, I guess I could look it up, but it hasn't been raining a lot lately. So I imagine that ground is pretty empty and has a lot of capacity to soak up that water.
So Yeah, not mosquito puddles.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to create mosquito puddles here.
Nice. We have some slow-mo replay coming up, but before we bring that up, I want to quickly mention something other way how you can support us, which I hope while I'm talking is coming up on the screen.
Wait a second. Time out, Adrian. You're really going to make them wait for the slow-mo replay until after the shop plug?
Yes. I'm sorry.
Well, let's do the shop plug fast so we can show them the super slow motion replay.
Here we go. We have last chance metal prints. They will leave the store at the end of the month. If you want them, check them out. They are gone very soon. That's it. I just wanted to mention that. They're gone after the end of the month. Here they are. If you want them, get them now.
Click
That's
now.
okay, Das?
See, yeah, here's how we test this. If we do a really fast shop plug and a lot of people don't need us to talk about it for 5 minutes and they go and grab something from the shop to help support what we do, then we can get to the replay more quickly. But if we say, the shop's good, and then nobody clicks on it, we're like, well, I guess we have to talk more about the shop. So the way you can minimize merch plugs is by going to the shop and purchasing things. Too much of a stretch? Are they giving me too much grief for that?
No, I'm not sure, but I think it's a logical approach. Anyway, let's bring up the replay. Shall we? Let's bring up the slow-mo.
There you go.
Wow. Oh god, this is beautiful.
Is this off Jack's camera?
I think this is Jack's camera. This looks like it, right? Wow. You can now see it now it's getting higher. You can now see how it starts to race.
Yep.
There.
Look at that.
Wow.
The other
That's so cool.
You can really see, right? Oh, a piece of paper flying. The other thing you can really see here is how the legs divert some of the energy that ends up underneath the OLM. We've known about this for a while, but when you have energy, whether that's Raptor engine fire or in this case the water, right? Sort of congregating underneath the OLM and then trying to escape out the sides of the OLM. Look at how much the legs actually sort of block that energy from coming directly at you. It acts like a divider, right? And so that's something we've always been looking at when we put cameras in places, because we want the cameras to be behind a leg, so the leg helps sort of block some of the energy. Not all cameras have always been placed that way. Let's put it that way.
There has some losses in the past.
Yeah, lessons learned.
There were some. So yeah, that's I really like this replay angle. I'm sorry. Can we? Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, there you go.
I think it's important to note that if you look into around the OLM legs into the middle under the booster there, it still seems kind of empty. So that does go along with the picture that SpaceX shared on Twitter of the partial test of the water not being shot directly upwards; it's being shot sideways.
Yeah, that's a great point, Ryan, because the water is not going up and hitting the Raptors right now, right? It's all coming out the sides. That's a really great observation.
You know what reminds me of as well? You remember when they tested the plate at McGregor? They showed the videos of that, and it was shooting off to the sides. It was not actually shooting off to the Raptor. It was shooting off to the sides. We made a whole video about that.
We did make a whole video about that.
I wonder who did that video.
Somebody talked in a video.
Yeah, somebody talked a lot, probably. I wonder who. Do we have a full replay of the tank farm yet? I hope we have. I want that. But I don't think
tank farm did.
Yeah, I want to see this escalation of the Deluge tank farm. It looked so cool. But maybe that's just me. But I'm obsessed with tank farms. So is there any chance we can get that pulled up and do that as well, or is that too much? I'm not sure. I'm standby. Okay. Maybe I have a chance here. So
yeah, we have those views. They're still pulling those views because it takes a while. There's so many views that we have that it takes a while. That's the problem, right? Of having too many cameras, that then you have to pull a lot of things.
Yeah. complain to Das about having too many cameras, so we have.
Yeah,
to
Das, why
so
do you
much.
put so many cameras? Come on.
Nice.
Hey, Chad, do you want to see the tank farm replay as well today? Just asking here, because maybe I want to see if I'm the only one excited to see the tank farm escalating. So I'm just I need confirmation here. Nice.
I'm
I
so
see
mad
yeses. Yes.
that the pad is already dry. Look at that. Look on the right. It's crazy.
Feels like home, Alex, right?
Yeah, it's oh god, it's super hot there.
So
People are saying
I have
yes.
Perfect. So we will get that. I have one more question here that I have keeping now for 70 minutes, and I want to ask it now because now we saw this test, and the question was: do you think that it's possible to see Starship launching again this year? Now that we saw this test, let's go start with Alex. Do you think we will see a Starship launching this year?
Well, I sure hope so. 'Cause otherwise, they have bigger problems.
Yeah, I mean,
But yeah, I really want it.
This test really increased. Like this looked okay. Like, so if this went well, there's probably not that much of showstopper. Wow, that replay is going wild. Das, what do you think? When we look? Oh, there we go. That's the tank farm. Look at that. Now it's just calm, but give it a few seconds.
Look at how far the water reaches past the OLM.
Look at that tank farm. Look at that. It's
No
completely
kidding.
escalating. Wow. See, that's why I wanted to see that. That's amazing.
The low horizontal venting, if I'm not mistaken, that low horizontal venting you see is the really loud noise you hear. It's not the water making that really loud noise. We lined it up before, and you heard sort of it's like the whoosh of the water coming up, but when it went crazy loud, that matched up with those horizontal vents coming from the top of the water storage tanks. Not going straight up, but going to the sides in that area.
Yeah.
So if I'm not mistaken, that's what's creating that super loud noise.
Yeah, I mean, at some point they have to probably, like, I wonder what that is even. They have to repressurize the system, so I wonder if it's that, like...
Yeah,
like,
here you go.
Oh, God,
Look, this
I'm
is
so
the
excited.
replay. This is the replay of the water farm. We put a camera on it specifically. It looks like it may...
Yeah,
we're going to have to pull that one directly off the cameras. We'll go
Or I
start
think-
pulling-
left side!
There we go.
Here we go.
And there comes the water.
Like soaking all the way to the... Oh, there's
there
the
you
big
go.
blow off. Look
Yeah.
at that.
That's like a very, very high energetic vent. That's loud. That's
Wow.
loud.
Yeah, that's a really loud vent. When those horizontal ones are really loud.
But you can see how it dies off. The water just dies off as they release that pressure. So that's why I'm thinking these are just basically to release that pressure and make the whole water just come down as...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
No
And like, look at
kidding.
it, like how it basically comes to rest now, the tank farm, after doing all of this. This is amazing to see. And the crazy thing is about this Deluge tank farm, basically none of this, or almost none of this, was there 3 months ago when the first launch happened.
Yeah, do
This
you remember when they
happened in-
brought these tanks? They brought some of the tanks and like the manifolds, for example, for the plates, they came in February. We did a whole KSC flyover explaining where
Yeah.
they came from. They came from LC-39A, from Kennedy Space Center at the Cape. So it's like, yeah, all of this was put together in pretty much 6, maybe 7 months tops. It's crazy.
Yeah, they worked fast with this. This is it's kind of impressive. It's really like, if you told me right after the launch, I mean, we are all on record. I think that we all thought like, oh, this looks rather difficult to repair, and I mean, it's 3 months later, and they did a pretty good job so far with repairing all of this.
Yeah.
So
That was the
Yeah.
question, wasn't it? Like, that was the question you were asking me whenever the tank farm video
Yeah.
came up.
yeah, do they launch this year again?
You know, I will say it. I think that there is nothing physically that would prevent them from trying to launch another Starship this year. The pad repairs that they made, the installation of the water plate and that entire system, were done ridiculously fast. And I don't mean that in like a, oh, they cut corners, they did it so fast sort of way. I mean, they were out there working night and day getting this stuff ready. The concrete coming in, the rebar all being set, like everything that they did. It looks like it looked great in this test. They're certainly going to learn something. Maybe there's going to be some things to fix. But I don't think that there is anything with the launch pad itself that would prevent them from trying Starship again this year. I'll say it. I hate that I have to say this, but I bet you if anything stops Starship from launching this year, it may be paperwork. And whether that paperwork is a license that the FAA wants to give them, but then somebody else won't let the FAA give them the license for whatever reason, and environmental concerns or whatever. There's a long list of paperwork that could stop it, and there's a lot of arguments as to whether or not that paperwork should be able to stop it or not. I mean, to say, oh, you haven't mitigated these things, but then not giving them a chance to prove that they've mitigated it, that's sort of a lousy situation. So personally, I think putting all this stuff in place, not just repeating the exact same thing you did before, but putting these new systems in place, the deluge plate, the steel plate, all these different things that they're doing to keep the hole from forming, right? Plus other things like the FTS system and stuff like that. I honestly think that paperwork should not stop Starship. Because if you file paperwork and say, you can't try again, well then how are they supposed to prove that now the plate is good, and now the flight termination system is good? Like, jump through some gates to get there, but saying you're not allowed to launch and you have no evidence that you've done it sort of prevents them from ever proving that they fixed it, right?
Yeah.
So I hope, this is me completely talking just as a person, not as a lawyer or anything like that. I hope that whatever's going on with paperwork, SpaceX shows that they have taken very specific steps to mitigate specific things. The hole in the ground and the flight termination system, very specifically, right? And they are given the opportunity to launch this thing again to prove whether or not those things mitigate the things that went wrong in the first integrated flight test. That's my long-winded opinion on it, but I hope they get another chance to prove that they have solved those problems.
And I think it's also clear that it's most likely not a federal agency like the FAA the one against that, because we've seen them approving stuff before and sort of letting them do their thing as long as they actually go ahead and meet all of the requirements, right? So it's like, yeah, they're totally on board with that. It takes time. Things are not instant in this world. I wish they were, right? But you know, sadly, they are not instant, and especially paperwork. It's it's certainly not instant at all.
Yeah,
man, it takes so much time.
I get it. Like, I see a bunch of people talking in chat, and I know that maybe some people don't want solutions; they just want things to be stopped. And I hope that we can find a middle ground where we're protecting things and we're not causing wanton, unnecessary destruction, but we're still also able to progress as a species, right? We've got places to go. It's what we do. I talk about this too much. Y'all talk for a little while. Sorry, y'all.
I mean,
well,
okay. I just agree on the fact, like, there's probably Super Heavy is a giant rocket, and Starship in general. So there's probably not a single place on this planet where you can put it where it will not interfere with things. It's too big for that. It's too massive. It has too much thrust. So that's why you have things like mitigations, where you try to find ways to find a compromise between, hey, we have a good space to launch this, but how can we mitigate all of these effects that this rocket and this operation has? And it's not only the rocket itself, the operation itself also has an impact on Boca Chica and the overall area. That's just how this works. But again, find me one place where this won't have an impact. Even at the Cape, Starship will have an impact.
Yeah.
And also, apart from that side of view of the sort of the impact on the environment and things like that, they obviously, to me at least, the hole in the ground is less of a big deal than the flight termination system, because the flight termination system, not having your rocket being able to be blown up the moment you want it to be blown up, that is quite a bigger deal. And I think people are putting too much effort into this, hole on the ground. Look, it's like they've already put a plate on top, you know, they've put these big giant foundations underneath so that it is all stable and pretty much anchored to the, you know, all the way deep down to the ground. And, it may not work, we don't know, but the only way that you can prove that it works or not is actually launching the thing. And I've seen, especially in the last few days, comments from the FAA saying that, yeah, SpaceX hasn't, ended the report about the first flight, and some people saying, oh, that means it's not launching at all anytime soon. Reminder, New Shepard had a failure in September of last year. We haven't seen anything coming from the FAA about any report at all, even 10 months later. So these things take time when they do take time. And these things, when they are released and they are fully finished, it's not that they are completed like 2 months or 3 months before the launch. Usually it's just before the launch, like a week or just a few days. We got the launch license, if you remember, less than a week before the actual launch for the first flight. So all of this paperwork is just gonna finish as soon as they are already, getting into that moment of launching this. So don't fret, it's gonna happen when it's gonna happen, but it's gonna happen. That's the bottom line here.
In my opinion, the three headline kind of incidents was hole in the ground, the Raptors being lost with that kind of spluttering of the hydraulic power unit, and then the flight termination system not working properly. We've seen them test a tank at Massey's with the flight termination system. They're switching to electric TVC on the booster to eliminate the need for the HPU, and we've now seen this test of the steel plate to try and mitigate that hole in the ground ever happening again. I mean, you can say that those three headline things weren't good and they happen. I mean, they weren't good for the flight, but they've proven now that they have mitigations for them. They've tested things. They've shown things actually working. So it's kind of hard to make an argument against that when they've already worked on it.
Yeah, and also for filling those kind of reports, you also need data to back up your claims, right?
Yeah.
So this is one piece of data. They've already tested that plate. Then they'll do static fires, and probably they'll fire up again the water system, and then they have even more points of data. We saw them testing the flight termination system at Massey's. They had another piece of data. So, these things are not just paperwork for the sake of paperwork. They also are backed up with data that they capture
Alex,
in real life.
Did you say more data?
More data, more better.
Yeah, more data, more better. Thank you. I can mute myself again now.
I love how Jack just occasionally pops in for these and then is gone again for 20 minutes. It's perfect. I love it. One question here by Andrew M. Do you think the same system will be implemented at 39A, or they will use a more traditional Deluge system there? Alex, I know you wrote flyover scripts for us, so what's your thing on 39A?
I think if this works here, they'll probably use it again at LC39A. The advantage there that they have is that they don't have all the pipelines and everything in the way, so they can probably do a little more of a optimized version of this, where they don't need to go around all of the cryo pipes and things like that. It helps a lot that it's a new pad.
So, yeah, I'm wondering, like, they tend to modify 39A stuff a bit more. Like we saw with Tau with the shorter chopstick. So I'm always interested. I don't think they will go full steam ahead with the full water ahead more.
Well, it'll be steam once the Raptor fire hits it.
It's true. Like it's first full liquid ahead and then full steam ahead. It's like in order. So we'll see. But there will probably be some modifications. This will not be the final version of a Starship Deluge system. This is just the second version they're trying. The first one, well, it's technically the first version of a Deluge system. The first one, if I call it the Deluge system, people get angry on me on air.
Yeah, someone is already pointing out they have a manifold buried under the OLM. Well, not the actual OLM because there's not an OLM out there, but they do have a manifold that they built last year and they installed at LC39A. But it doesn't look like anything that we see right here at Starbase. They don't even have any plates at all. There's nothing other than that manifold going on. So we don't really know how it'll look like in the end, and whether whatever lessons learned from building this one will be applied to that one. If they deem necessary, they might just remove the old one that they have installed and put a new one based on this one. So we just don't know, but it's definitely easier when you have a more blank sheet paper kind of thing of a pad, because that's what they are in that situation there, where they don't have all of these complicated pipes and things like that going up to a launch mount out there.
I mean, you could argue that the first flight did a very good job in making sure they have a blank plate again where they can work on, because it leveled everything. So they had an easier time. They basically, the first flight did the digging for them, so they didn't have to dig out the crater. So
Good grief.
I mean, it's kind of true. It's not fully wrong.
Kind of true, but they also filled most of it back in. I mean, okay, real serious
Yeah.
for a second.
I get it.
You need the ground to be compacted. You don't just replace the soil and then build something on top of it, because then over time, the weight of whatever you built compacts the soil, and then you're under, blah, blah, blah. You don't want to do that, right? So as much as we like to joke, oh, they dug the hole with the Raptors, right? Like, that's not a great thing to do, because they need to make sure that the ground is compacted underneath whatever they put on top of it. So,
Yeah. And
anyways,
that's
spoil sport
also the
DOS,
reason.
I know.
Yeah, sorry. I'm also glad they got. And there was a lot of concrete also involved in this, so they made sure that this has a well structured foundation, because that's better if you want to have stability and don't have things flying around again. And that's the goal here. Because if this works, they can then launch the third flight faster, because they don't have to repair their whole system again for the third flight. Like, this is very much also impacting when they can launch for the third time. If the Deluge system works and the pad is still in a good situation, they can put the next booster basically on that, test it, and go again.
Yeah.
It's way shorter. The main thing we are waiting right now is this repair. And if this is not needed, they can probably launch quite quickly.
Yeah.
So
I'll say it one more time. The number one thing I want to see is proof, testing whether or not these things fix the problem, and the way to do that is to launch another rocket.
Yeah, I wonder. Yeah, that's the thing again. Like, they cannot even really test it until the launch, right? Because because they, at least for the first one, the static fire was not even close to the full thrust of the launch. So it seems like unless they change that, we will only see it really in action on launch day and not before.
I think we could sit here, like, hanging out, y'all. It's sort of what we do. We chat, and we like to talk about stuff. Again, this is very observational. We watch what happens. We talk with y'all about how things sort of work or what we saw. Sometimes we see something, and then later we get more information that makes it, well, maybe that's not how it worked, right? But we like to hang out and see these things. And as of right now, we have almost 800,000 people following the channel. We got what do we get up to on this stream here? We did 17,000 viewers at once, and we are so close to ticking over 800,000. Look, there was one more. This is actually a live count. So if you're not currently subbed to the channel, you want to hang out with us, and you want to do some roadside rocket science, armchair engineering, whatever you want to call it, with us. Hey, wait, what? It went back down again? What did two went down? Somebody fix that.
This is what the internet does, Das. They troll you. They troll you. As soon as you put a live count on screen, they're like,
watch.
It will be really funny if we all unsubscribe.
Nope.
Oh, there we go.
There are more people that want to hang out with us than people that are going to unsubscribe. Oh, but back down again. Is it going to go up or down? One way or the other. If you're not yet subbed to the channel, click on the button there to sub over to the channel and follow what we're doing. Nice.
And I have another person I want to thank, Das, just as we talked about this, because we just got a $100 super chat from Russell, saying, "It didn't look like the water sprayed straight up at the Raptors. Am I mistaken? The engines should be safe from water compromise." And I think we answered that, like, yes. It looked like the Raptors didn't get any water.
Yep.
And as we say that, people are at the pad.
Look at that. There's a truck driving over. There's already folks walking around foot mobile on the pad, looking down at the plate. Haven't seen anybody fall in a big hole or anything like that. Taking some pictures. There you
Hope
go.
they have
Some cell
shampoo
phone
there.
pictures.
Or the shower.
They missed the shower. They were like, damn it.
Yeah.
just missed it. They just grabbed their shampoo and were late.
There you go, kicking a couple things around. I mean, it looks good. Even that is still connected. The tarp there is still connected. I thought that tarp may wash away, right? But it's not like there's one huge chunk missing or a plate that got half lifted up or anything like that.
That side is where the pond is located, so they probably were looking at the water located there.
Yeah.
Like how much water is in the pond and if there's any. I want to point out if there's any.
By this time it's already been one hour, right? So it's probably already dry.
Yeah. I like the inspect with your shoe thing, right? Like you look at it, but are you really convinced it's okay? You got to sort of scuff it with your shoe a little bit to make sure that it's good.
Yeah, do this like this little bit of shoe wiggling on the surface and be like, yes,
exactly.
It's still solid.
You have to touch it with your foot.
Yeah, it's the proper engineering inspection. There they go. There we see the.
They're like kicking the tires. There you go.
Yeah, it's once you change a tire, you need to kick it once, otherwise it's not attached.
Yeah.
That's a rule.
There's
did they just
a little cable or something that's sort of above the ground. I think those people are walking on the far side. I don't see like a big plate that's been bent up or anything like that, but
yeah, I don't see like hands over the head and everything. So that's always
game over. The game over maneuver or whatever.
Yeah, the oh no. Also, there's the subs counter again.
Yeah. Oh, we went back to the sub counter. Nice.
Yeah,
we higher than it was before. I think most
of people. I shouldn't have watched that deluge.
Oh God, Jack.
What, Jack?
I got that reference, but yeah.
Oh no.
Because I stay too close to Jack, so I get his references.
I think it's 50 higher, by the way. That's. We started at 7:89, and it's now 8:30, so 50 people. So, with that, should we say goodbye for today? Because they're back at the pad, so maybe it's time for us to go to our analysis again, and also get a video ready. So we'll make sure to upload more footage. I guess that's the plan.
Yep, that's what we're working on right now, pulling some of the direct stuff off the SD cards, but we'll send them back over to Starbase Live. In fact, during the test, we had the views that were there, like sort of in the 4-box. I think some of them might have hiccuped a little bit because we weren't paying a lot of attention over there, but I'm making sure we pull them all directly off the SD cards, so we have them all for a video that'll summarize what we saw from all the different angles and all the different cameras here. Hopefully we have that out this evening.
There we go. So let's start with thank you some people here. Thanks Alex for being with us.
Oh man, it's been a pleasure. That was a really fun test to watch.
Yes, indeed it was. Thanks Das for being with us today.
Oh yeah, good times. That was really interesting to see.
And also thank you to Ryan for after editing a lot also being with us today.
Yeah, you're very welcome. I'll just do a quick plug that what I was editing this week in Spaceflight. So if you want to go watch something, a new video right now, that is available on the channel. So cheeky plug, go watch that because I edited it, and they're always really good because I edited it.
Here, I'm spamming that link. If you haven't yet seen our This Week in Spaceflight, y'all, the link that I'm putting in chat, it's like, how long was it? 10, 12 minutes this week, Ryan?
Was 13:13 or something?
13:13
right
maybe.
Not
I'm not superstitious.
Yeah.
Short. It's like a bite-sized news summary of all the things that happen across spaceflight. So if you want to get caught up, you don't have time to sit there and watch every single live stream or read every single tweet or whatever it is. You can click on This Week in Spaceflight. There's a link one more time to go and get caught up. At least it does such a good job with those, hosting those.
Yes.
And it's like targeted, bite-sized information with very little rambling, as opposed to our live streams.
Yeah, that's the exact opposite of this live stream.
Yeah.
I also want to thank Jack in the field who endured Texas weather for us and watched this test live and brought us some amazing moves. Thank you, Jack.
Yeah, buddy.
There we go.
Nice.
And also behind the scenes with us today was Kevin Michael Reed, pushing buttons as we say. So thank you for that as well, Kevin. And with that, we are throwing you all the way to Starbase Live Thanks for watching. My name was Adrian Bile, and with that, goodbye.
And here we go. We have liftoff.
Propulsion continues to be nominal.
R68 chamber pressure looks good.
Following up. Roger, roll, Atlantic.
Water towers fly! Yes! Tango down to nominal.
Fighting downside FD off. Bring in FD off. Off. It's orange! 145! Oh my god! Oh my god! Decollage! Put that in the big bag, Eagle.
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together back to the moon and beyond.
If the methane would be igniting in the flare, correct?